welcome to this episode of Kennedy Saves the World. Thank God the new president of MSNBC is saving us from Joy Reid. Her show is axed. It's about time. I don't say that lightly. I don't wish other people, especially other hosts, unemployment. I don't cheer for cancellations, and I'm not cheering. She's just an awful person. Like, arguably the biggest racist in all of cable news.
Yes. If we were playing Jeopardy, this is where I would take what is addition by subtraction for 500, Alex, because that's who she was. And it makes me feel, I was really excited about this. I had a tweet that went pretty viral yesterday.
Sure did.
Oh, Jimmy with the tweets. And I only want credit for that because I was telling you on the way in to record this how banged up I was after a weekend doing shows. I had a Friday night gig in Detroit.
Oh, wow.
And I do believe I was overserved, both at the airport bar and on the flight home. I was perfectly functional. Yeah. But the fact that I was even alive on Sunday, let alone capable of writing a somewhat relevant and coherent tweet, is an accomplishment unto itself.
Yep.
And what I had said to people is that there is so much comedic karma and value in the idea of someone who shamelessly race baited us forever, getting fired in the middle of Black History Month. That's what I said. Yeah. Congratulations, MSNBC, on finally giving us some actual joy. See what I did?
She's not one of those people, like, there are people, you go, like, I remember when Obama was elected. And I was like, God, that's amazing. Like,
yes.
Look where we've come as a country in 2008. And that was one of the landmark moments in politics and culture. I never looked at her and went, you know, we have really evolved as a society. What an incredible person. Like, what a great story about an accomplished woman who happens to be Black. No, she did more. She was more divisive than any president or presidential candidate we've had in 40 years.
Ever. And never forget that this all started with the world uncovering some pretty vile homophobic posts on her blog.
That she said she was hacked.
I was hacked.
Yep.
The FBI is investigating it. Yo, these posts are from 2014. We've never gotten an investigation to this day, by the way.
No, the FBI looked at it and went, oh, no, that's you. And she went, that's me.
Well, that's because the FBI is white supremacist. Yeah. It was founded in bigotry, and that's what she would do. So the go-to is, there was this old show called The State. I know you know this. And this is an out-to-lunch analogy, but if you're going to save the world, you got to go to dark corners of the universe.
Absolutely.
There was a guy, Louis, on The State, and the sketch was he would show up to a party, and I don't even know why this is funny, but it was. They would just give Louis an object, and his response would be, I want to dip my balls in it.
That was the best.
Hey, Louis, did you try the mac and cheese? I want to dip my balls in it. And none of us know why it was funny to this day, but that was the entirety of the sketch. And you could, if you saw it, you could always recall it in conversation. Yeah. But that was the note. She had one note, which was whatever you threw at her, she was going to portray it to the viewer through the lens of race, even when it was completely inappropriate.
Yeah,
which
California
was
wildfires.
Yeah.
It's race.
Yeah, it's white supremacy. I mean, I'll tell you who started the wildfires.
Oh, white people lost their homes? Don't care.
Yeah, who cares? Doesn't even matter.
Yeah, Kamala lost because of white people. White women in particular.
But that was always the angle. And I get that
COVID doesn't kill white people.
No! Let's talk about climate reparations. Yeah. Mother Nature, that racist. Like, what's going on here?
Well, speaking of climate reparations, Stacey Abrams.
Oh, my goodness.
So she created a nonprofit just a couple months before the Biden administration was handing out their final farewell packages. And she had $100 in revenue. So it was a startup. It was brand new. That means, like, you as a formality, deposit a $100 check into the account of the do-gooder organization. She was given $2 billion. Billion. For doing nothing.
Nothing at all.
Yeah.
It was just it was a sweetheart deal for friends of the family on the way out the door. And I think that's one of the reasons why, obviously, D.C., on the anti-Doge side of this, is so apoplectic right now.
Yeah.
Because they had a really good racket going.
Oh, yeah.
That wasn't getting scrutinized at all. And I said this, the Democrats are making it worse because they're all behaving like Ray Liotta at the end of Goodfellas. Like, Karen, we needed that money, Karen.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely what's going on. And the reason everyone listening should care, okay, is because when they're abusing your tax dollars, they don't go, well, we're just going to abuse the Republican tax dollar. They're just abusing your tax dollars. Meaning whether you're a Democrat or Republican, you're getting screwed right now. So we should care.
Don't go anywhere. More Kennedy Saves the World right after this.
So in 8th grade,
Give it to me.
we were all going to sneak out and egg boys' homes.
Yeah. They don't do that at these prices.
The only way we could do that is if we all stayed at Amy's house, whose parents were out of town.
Ooh.
Now, Amy was an only child, and her parents said, you can have one friend stay the night, and we trust you. So Amy, and then we all told our moms we were staying at different people's houses. So this is what the Democrats have been doing. They've been telling everyone, like, no, this money's going over there. And then this person says, actually, it's going over there. And then this person's like, no, it's going. And no one ever said, Amy. All it took was two moms to talk to each other, and our plan absolutely blew up. We were completely screwed and all grounded. So that's what has happened. Like, they have this big ruse, and they thought they're going to pull the wool over everyone's eyes forever.
Yep.
Until another party got into power and went, way too much money is going out.
Mm-hmm.
We have too little to show for it and too much debt.
Yeah.
So how can you explain that? Every single federal agency.
So, and what was the response? Well, this is just white supremacy. This is just Hitler. I mean, these are all angles
Only
of
an authoritarian would ask questions about government waste.
How dare you want to know where the money went? Just because we take in more tax revenue than any nation in the history of the world doesn't mean it's not perfectly acceptable to be broke and $36 trillion in debt. And that's the point I keep trying to make about Doge is like, everyone listening to this could not run a household the way they run the government. So why would you?
Or a business.
Definitely not a business. And this is why the government, really big government, really is such a scam. Okay, and I know you know this, but for people listening at home, in the business world, if you pour a bunch of money into a program and it doesn't work, they axe the program immediately and potentially axe the guy who sold you on the idea.
Yes.
In the government, they form a committee to study why the program didn't work. That always ends with them recommending more money being spent on the original bad idea.
Yeah, and you could say the same for education. Well, we spend most money per pupil in LA, DC, and New York and have the worst outcomes. Yeah. So, it's like the people who have profited off of this massive bloated bureaucratic state are like, well, we just need to spend more money. Yeah. I mean, that's all we need to do. It's like, well, you've already spent the money and no one can read. Like, no one can spell. No one can do math.
The idea that we're 40th in education and anyone is trying to justify the status quo. If you were a Major League Baseball team, you had the highest payroll in the league, and you came in 40th, probably going to make some personnel changes. And this argument that like, oh, just when we're 40th in education, Trump wants to cut Department of Education. I'm like, that's exactly when you cut them. Yeah. How can you justify?
How much further do you need to fall? How much more is it acceptable for kids to fail?
I know, and that's the scam. So I feel like, and I know we were talking about Joy Reid earlier, but I do feel like we're undergoing this societal course correction that makes me very optimistic. I'm not saying they're definitely going to pull it off, but
but in terms of Joy Reid,
fighting the right battles.
Here's what happened. People realized, and they got really sick of it. And then when everyone decided that we're going to go in a different direction, which is what Doge is, and it's what Trump is, and it doesn't necessarily make you a Republican, everyone breathed a sigh of relief and went, oh, thank God, because what we're doing isn't working and this all sucks. And that's why the viewership at MSNBC went down by 50%. If people were really, really mad about authoritarian Hitler and his little South African monkey in the Oval Office, their ratings would have quadrupled. If the threat were real and there was an agreement with most of the country that we are on a collision course with disaster, their ratings would have skyrocketed because that's what they were selling: hysteria and fear,
manufactured
and racial division.
hysteria.
Her specifically, her ratings plummeted because she was wrong and she was dividing people and she was wrong on all of the issues that really mattered to people who came out to vote.
Amen. Anybody who wants to get rid of cops, it's intellectually disqualifying. I say this all the time. Cops are like condoms. Just because one of them doesn't work every few months doesn't mean we should all stop using them. Yeah. Jenny, if you're listening, I'm away a lot. I don't know what goes on at these parties you go to. You're telling me Tupperware. I don't know that I buy it.
That's code.
I don't know that I buy it. But the point is we are course correcting. And MSNBC, I want to say this. I don't know that they found Jesus late in the service so much as the market, as you were saying, just showed them where the holy water was. Yeah. I think they would have stayed the course had they had their way, but they realized there's no market for this.
No, but they finally got a president, and they're like, oh, she's so cold. She's such a ball buster. It's like, Oh, kind of like the president and Doge, like looking at things going, this isn't working.
We're not getting a return on the investment.
Wrong.
Yeah.
And it's not worth it to die on this hill when you are lying to people. Like that's how you're fighting. You're lying to everybody and offering them nothing.
Well, this is what's so fascinating to that point, and maybe I'll leave it here from my end of this, is like the Democratic Party that's fighting Doge. They're fighting something that the public overwhelmingly supports, and that's what I don't get this. Okay, traditionally, you cater to customer preferences. And I think the fact that they're this staunchly in the way of what the customer is asking for means they don't really fancy themselves a government that works for us. I think they do look at us as people who work for the government.
Yes.
Like it's their birthright to have the tax dollars and do what they want. Yeah. And I guess that's the only way I can justify doing this is they don't want to abandon the way of life. Is that what it is? I don't know that it is.
No, we're the inconvenient ones.
Yeah.
And they have done right by us. And how dare we ask questions?
You got a lot of nerve asking about this drag show in Ecuador.
I mean, they've been doing everything wrong in terms of immigration and, you know, the transgender sports stuff, letting it become metastasized into the issue that it is when if they had been adults and had been honest and straightforward in the beginning, we wouldn't still be talking about these things.
Amen.
And Maine, the governor of Maine wouldn't be going, well, I'll see you in court.
Oh, that
it's
one.
Like, why don't you go shove a gavel where the sun don't shine and call it good?
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Well said.
All right, Jim. Let's adjourn.
On that high note.
This has been Kennedy Saves the World. Happy Monday! Along with Jimmy Failla, I'm Kennedy.
Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcast Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app.
Oh, go ahead and leave me a review while you're there. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
You've been listening to Kennedy Saves the World on the Fox News Podcast Network.